welcome to session 3. We hope you had a great time at the banquet.
We hope you had fun writing your stories and learning how to become characters who want something and overcome conflict.
Yeah, we got into some conflict overall.
Oh, yeah!
You have become a character who wants something. You've decided to take the hero's path to overcome conflict, and now we need to bring it all together so that you can get the thing that you want and live happily ever after. Right? I mean, that's what happens in every great story, isn't it? Right? The bomb gets defused, the guy gets the girl, the world is safe, and the credits roll. Except, we know that's not how real life works. I mean, in real life, we get into the college that was our top choice, and then we have endless amounts of homework and papers to write for the next 4 years. Right? We start dating that dream girl, but she's been hurt in the past, and she projects some of that hurt onto you, which causes all kinds of arguing and heartache. I mean, I hate to break it to you, but in real life, once you've become the hero, the credits don't roll, the world doesn't throw you a party, and you don't magically float off into happily ever after. So what's the point? I mean, why live this great story if it doesn't lead to that happily ever after? It's simple. Great stories are simply the context for Jesus to transform your life. I mean, all the problems, all the missions, all the conflicts, they're simply the space to help you go through that character transformation and become the person that God created you to become so that you can do everything that God created you to do. I mean, so let's go back and talk about your character transformation. In session 1, I told you that fate is a terrible writer. I mean, when you let your life drift to wherever fate might take you, you'll only become who fate invites you to become. And usually all that fate ever invites you to become is passive and lazy and selfish. And I know that that's not who you want to be, and it's certainly not who God created you to be either. I mean, this is why today has been all about getting intentional, about the story that your life is telling. I mean, when you take the pen back from fate, you now get to choose what kind of character you'll become. And when you allow Jesus to be your guide, he leads you to become a version of yourself that is far better than even you could lead yourself to become. I mean, the hero's journey is a journey of character transformation. That's what Jesus is all about. And throughout the Bible, we see Jesus take people like Peter, who was an unknown fisherman who would constantly speak first and think later, and he transformed him to become an influential church leader whose words would transform lives even to today. I mean, Jesus would take people like Saul, who was this judgmental religious leader who had no room for people of other beliefs. And Jesus transformed him to become this beacon of love and acceptance for people who didn't follow Jesus, which actually led many of those people to start following Jesus. I mean, Jesus was constantly meeting people where they were at, inviting them to tell a better story with their lives, and then transforming them along the journey. And that's what Jesus wants to do with you too. Jesus wants to help you tell stories that cause you to become more loving and more humble, more courageous and more patient. But not only that, he wants to help you tell stories that cause you to become a friend that others will have and remember for a lifetime, to become creative and innovative in a way that influences the direction of culture, to become musicians and teachers and lawyers who inspire people in ways that the world has never seen before. I mean, Jesus wants to take you just as you are today on a journey of character transformation. Now, you can see the main character in every movie slowly beginning to transform over the course of, an hour and 45 minutes. But there's always this one defining moment And it's usually near the end of the movie where after we've met the character, after we've learned what they want, after all the conflicts they had to face, there's this one moment where they now have to decide whether they'll go all in and become the character that they were meant to be, or fall back into their old ways and stay as the same character that they were at the beginning of the movie. This moment is called the climactic scene. I mean, if you were a screenwriter and you were gonna pitch your movie idea to a producer, what you would do is you would tell them about the character, right? And then you tell them about what they wanted and the conflict they'd have to face. But then you would, with just a sentence or two, in as much clarity and as much detail as you could, you would describe to them the climactic scene. The moment where the character must choose who they will become. I mean, Luke, right? A young farm boy who wants to put an end to the tyranny of the Empire. He discovers that there's this power, this force that only certain people can tap into. And as he struggles to learn the force, he has to come to grips that his father is the evil, force-wielding villain known as Darth Vader. And just as the galaxy seems lost to the evil Empire and their Death Star, right, a planet-destroying ship, Luke must put his training to the test, use the Force, and destroy the Death Star. The climactic scene, right? Or how about this movie pitch? The Grinch is a lonely green, pot-bellied creature who is so cynical, they say that his heart was 2 sizes too small. Right? All he wanted was to steal Christmas from those happy Who's in Whoville. So on Christmas Eve night, he sneaks into Whoville and steals all the presents and all the decorations, and then he waits for the Who's to wake up and realize that their precious Christmas had been taken. But as he sees the Who's wake up, and he hears them start singing anyways, he has this change of heart. In fact, they say that his heart grew 3 sizes that day, and he realizes that a life with friends and Christmas cheer is far better than a life of lonely cynicism. The climactic scene. And what I love is that before the movie was ever made, before the story was ever told, the writer already knew what the climactic scene would look like. They'd already pictured their climactic scene in their mind. And that's what I want you to do with your story too. I mean, if your story were a movie, what would the climactic scene look like? Now, the more specific and the more clear you can be about that climactic scene, the better. So I thought I would just give you a few examples of some of the climactic scenes that I am trying to write with my story. Some different climactic scenes that I'm actually pursuing. One of them is finishing 2020, able to say that it wasn't a wasted year, but that I leveraged this pandemic to become a more inspiring communicator and a more faith-filled leader. I want that as a climactic scene. I mean, here's another one. I had this climactic scene of submitting a finalized copy of a book that I wrote to a real publisher. Now, I haven't written anything yet, but I want to do that someday. Here's another one. Celebrating my 20th anniversary somewhere tropical with my best friend, Abby. I want to live a life that leads there. Writing a check for $100,000 and giving it to someone or something that I see God moving through. I want to do that. Last one I'll share with you. One of my climactic scenes that I so look forward to is crying at my kids' weddings as I give a speech about how proud I am of the men that they've become and the husbands that they're becoming. You see, by being able to envision and articulate those climactic scenes, I have a greater clarity about the direction that my life needs to go. I mean, these climactic scenes, they help me make better decisions and not just drift into telling a bad story with my life. I mean, they give me more reason to not avoid conflict. In fact, conflict just gives greater meaning to these climactic scenes. They inspire me to become someone greater than I am today. And they move me in the direction that I believe Jesus is calling me to. And that's what a climactic scene can do for you too. So, if your story were a movie, what would the climactic scene look like? And a follow-up to that, and honestly probably my favorite question of today, is how will you celebrate once you've lived your climactic scene? I mean, I already told you that the world isn't going to throw you a party for telling a great story with your life. That's not how it works. So you throw one, right? Plan this ahead of time. Use it as motivation, as like a reward for living the kind of life that you were created to live. Treat yourself to, your favorite dessert. Road trip with friends up to Duluth. Order some stickers with your face on it and put them all over places. I don't know, just celebrate. Celebrations mark milestones and create memories so that years from now, you can look back and remember the stories that you're telling with your life. And celebrations inspire and invite other people to tell great stories too. And sometimes those people even join you in the stories that you're telling. And I know that Jesus is all about celebrations. I mean, the guy was constantly having dinners at people's houses and showing up for weddings, right? Filling people with joy and wonder as he went from town to town. He turned water into wine. He turned some kid's Lunchable into a feast for thousands of people. I mean, if anyone knew the importance of celebrating, it was Jesus. So how will you celebrate once you've lived your climactic scene? Mark that moment with something special. Don't let the story you told and the transformation you've gone through just look like every other day. That is a quick way to convince yourself that your story didn't really matter. Celebrate. Mark the moment. And then pick up the pen, hand it back to your guide, and see what great story Jesus leads you into next. I am believing God that your life is going to make a difference in the world, that the stories you tell with your life will shape culture and give people a taste of what Jesus can do in a person's life when they choose to let him write it. So now, it's time to start living it. What is the first action you need to take to start living your story? Jesus' brother James once said that faith without works is dead, or faith without action is dead. Can I say that just a tad differently? Believing that Jesus can tell a great story with your life without taking action is dead. It's not going to happen, right? You need to choose to take that first step of faith and enter into this new great story that you've been putting together all day today. Text that friend you've been avoiding and start the conversation. Hunker down and fill out that college application. Contact that teacher or person and commit to volunteering your time or mentoring that person or getting mentored yourself. The worst thing that you could do right now is nothing. But you're not going to do that. You were created for more than that. And Jesus is ready to start writing a better story with your life. And I know that you are too. So take that first step. Move yourself to action. This is your story. So live one worth telling. You guys, thank you so much for spending the day with us. I can't wait to hear how God used today to change the trajectory of your life and the story that your life is telling. I hope you guys have a great conversation in your groups, and Happy New Year.
Thank you guys for being with us today. We hope you were inspired to live a great story. After all, you only get one life, and this is your story. But before you go, here are 2 questions for you to discuss in your groups.
1. What kind of character transformation do you envision yourself going through if you decide to live your story? 2. On your story card, fill out the "To Get It" section, then talk about your answers with your group.
Thank you guys again for hanging out with us. We really look forward to counting down the new year with you.
Fire! Fire! Ah! You put that in there too.
Fire! Fire!